Good evening to all of you. Welcome viewers in this video. This is the third part of waiting for a visa. We have already uploaded two videos from this book, and this is the third and the last part of this video. Let's start. The year was 1929. The Bombay government had appointed a committee to investigate the grievances of the untouchable. I was appointed a member of the committee. The committee had to tour all over the province to investigate into the allegation of injustice, oppression, and tyranny. The committee split up. I and another member were assigned the two districts of Khandes. My colleagues and myself, after finishing our work, parted company. We went to see some Hindu saint. I left by train to go to Bombay. At Chalisgaon, I got down to go to a village on the Dhulia line to investigate a case of social boycott. Social boycott, you understand that there are cut off whole society from some people or from some houses or from some caste on their religion basis. They do not talk to them, they do not give or take anything to the special boycott societies, which had been declared by the caste Hindu against the untouchable of that village. The untouchable of Chalisgaon came to the station and requested me to stay for the night with them. My original plan was to go to straight to Bombay after investigating the case of social boycott, but as they were keen, I agreed to stay overnight. I boarded the train for Dhulia to go to the village, went there and informed myself of the situation prevailing in the village and returned by the next train to Chalisgaon. I found the untouchable of Chalisgaon waiting for me at the station. I was garlanded. The Maharwada, the quarter of the untouchable, is about 2 miles from the railway station, and one has to cross a river on which there is a culvert to reach it. There were many horse carriages at the station plying for hire. The Maharwada was also within walking distance from the station. I expected immediately to be taken to the Maharwada, but there was no movement in that direction that I could not understand why I was kept waiting. After an hour or so, a Tonga one horse carriage was brought close to the platform and I got in. The driver and I were the only two occupants of the Tonga. Others went on foot by a shortcut. The Tonga had not gone 200 paces when there would have been a collision with a motor car. I was surprised that the driver, who was paid for hire every day, should have been so inexperienced. The accident was averted only because on the loud shout of the policeman, the driver of the car pulled it back. We somehow came to the culvert on the river. On it, there are no walls as there are on a bridge. There is only a row of stones fixed at a distance of 5 or 10 feet. It is paved with stone. The culvert on the river is at right angles to the road we were coming by. A sharp turn has to be taken to come to the culvert from the road. Near the very first side stone of the culvert, the horse, instead of going straight, took a turn and bolted. The wheel of the Tonga stuck against the side stone so forcibly that I was bodily lifted up and thrown down on the stone pavement of the culvert, and the horse and the carriage fell down from the culvert into the river. So heavy was the fall that I lay down senseless. The Maharwada is just on the other bank of the river. The man who had come to greet me at the station had reached there ahead of me. I was lifted and taken to the Maharwada amidst the furies and lamentation of the men, women, and children. As a result of this, I received several injuries. My legs were fractured and I was disabled for several days. I could not understand how all this happened. The Tongas pass and repass the culvert every day, and never has a driver failed to take the Tonga safely over the culvert. On inquiry, I was told the real facts. The delay at the railway station was due to the fact that the Tongavalas were not prepared to drive the Tonga with a passenger who was an untouchable. It was beneath their dignity. The Mahars could not tolerate that I should walk to their quarters. It was not in keeping with their sense of my dignity. A compromise was therefore arrived at. That compromise was to this effect: the owner of the Tonga would give the Tonga on hire but not drive. The Mahars may take the Tonga but find someone to drive it. The Mahar sought this to be a happy solution, but they evidently forgot that the safety of the passenger was more important than the maintenance of his dignity. If they had thought of this, they would have considered whether they could get a driver what could safely conduct me to my destination. As a matter of fact, none of them could live because it was not their trade. They therefore asked someone from amongst themselves to drive the man to the rein in his hand and started thinking there was nothing in it. But as he got on, he felt his responsibility and became so nervous that he gave up all attempt to control. To save my dignity, the Mahars of Chalisgaon had put my very life in jeopardy, in danger. It is then I learned that a Hindu Tungawala, no better than a menial, has a dignity by which he can look upon himself as a person who is superior to all untouchable, even though he may be a barrister at law. You can see here the discrimination. This is the fourth story. In the year 1934, some of my co-workers in the movement of the depressed class expressed a desire to go on a sightseeing tour. If I agreed to join them, I agreed. It was decided that our plan should at all events include a visit to the Buddhist cave at Verul. It was arranged that I should go to Nasik and the party should join me at Nasik. To go to Verul, we had to go to Aurangabad. Aurangabad is a town in the modern state of Hyderabad and is included in the dominion of His Exalted Highness the Nizam. On the way to Aurangabad, we had first to pass another town called Daulatabad, which is also in the Hyderabad state. Daulatabad is a historical place and was at one time the capital of a famous Hindu king by name Ramdev Rai. The fort of Daulatabad is an ancient historical monument and no tourist while in that vicinity should omit a visit to it. Accordingly to our party had also included in its program a visit to the fort of Daulatabad. We hired some buses and touring cars. We were about 30 in numbers. We started from Nasik to Jevla as Jevla is on the way to Aurangabad. Our tour program had not been announced and quite deliberately. We wanted to travel incognito in order to avoid difficulty which an untouchable tourist has to face in outlying parts of the country. We had informed our people at those centers only at which we had decided to hold. Accordingly, on the way, although we passed many villages in the Nizam state, none of our people had come to meet us. It was naturally different at Daulatabad. There, our people had been informed that we were coming. They were waiting for us and had gathered at the entrance to the town. They asked us to get down and have a tea and refreshment first and then to go to see the fort. We did not agree to their proposal. We wanted tea very badly, but we wanted sufficient time to see the fort before it was dusk. We therefore left for the fort and told our people that we would take tea on our return. Accordingly, we told our driver to move on, and within a few minutes we were at the gate of the fort. The month was Ramzan, the month of fast for the Mohammedans. Just outside the gate of the fort, there is a small tank of water full of brim. There is all around a wide stone pavement. Our faces, bodies, clothes were full of dust gathered in the course of our journey, and we all wished to have a wash. Without much thought, some members of the party washed their faces and their legs on the pavement with the water from the tank. After this ablution, we went to the gate of the fort. There were armed soldiers inside. They opened the big gates and admitted us into the pathway. We had just commenced asking the guard the procedure for obtaining permission to go into the fort. In the meantime, an old Mohammedan with the white flowing beard was coming from behind shouting, "The Tates, meaning untouchable, have pulled the tanks." Soon all the young and old Mohammedan who were near about joined him, and all started abusing us. The Dates have become arrogant, the Dates have forgotten their religion, the Dates must be taught a lesson. They assumed a most menacing mood. We told them that we were outsider and did not know the local custom. They turned the fire of their wrath against the local untouchable who by that time had arrived at the gate. Why did you not tell this outsider that this tank could not be used by untouchable? Was the question they kept on asking them, poor people. They were not there when we entered tank. It was really our mistake because we acted without inquiry. They protested that it was not their fault, but the Mohammedans were not prepared to listen to my explanation. They kept on abusing and us. The abuse was so vulgar that it had ex- exasperated us. There could easily have been a riot and possibly murders. We had, however, to restrain ourselves. We did not want to be involved in a criminal case which would bring our tour to an abrupt end. One young Muslim in the crowd kept on saying that everyone must conform to his religion, meaning thereby that the untouchable must not take water from a public tank. I had grown quite impatient and asked him in a somewhat angry tone, "Is that what your religion teaches? Would you prevent an untouchable from taking water from this tank if he became a Mohammedan?" These street questions seemed to have some effect on the Mohammedans. They gave no answer and stood silent. Turning to the guard, I said again in an angry tone, "Can we get into the fort or not? Tell us. If we can't, we don't want to stop." The guard asked for my name. I wrote it out on a piece of paper. He took it to the superintendent inside and came out. We were told that we could go into the fort, but we could not touch water anywhere in the fort, and an armed soldier was ordered to go with us to see that we did not transgress the order. I gave one instance to show that a person who is an untouchable to a Hindu is also an untouchable to a Parsi. This will show that person who is untouchable to a Hindu is also an untouchable to a Mohammedans. This is the fifth story. The next case is equally illuminating. It is a case of an untouchable school teacher in a village in Kathiawar and is reported in the following letter which appeared in the Young India, a journal published by Mr. Gandhi. In its issue of 12th December 1929, it expresses the difficulty he had expressed in persuading a Hindu doctor to attend his wife who had just delivered and how the wife and child died for want of medical attention. The letter says, "On the 5th of this month, a child was born to me. On the 7th, she fell ill and suffered from loose stools. Her vitality seemed to ebb away and her chest became inflamed, her breathing became difficult, and there was acute pain in the ribs. I went to call a doctor, but he said he would not go to the house of a region, nor was he prepared to examine the child. Then I went to Nashar, Nagar Shet and Gracia Darbar and pleaded them to help. The Nagarset stood surety to the doctor for my paying his fee of 2 rupees. Then the doctor came, but on condition that he would examine them only outside the colony. I took my wife out of the colony along with her newly born child. Then the doctor gave his thermometer to a Muslim. He gave it to me and I gave it to my wife and then returned it by the same process after it had been applied. It was about 8 o'clock in the evening, and the doctor, on looking at the thermometer in the light of a lamp, said that the patient was suffering from pneumonia. Then the doctor went away and sent the medicine. I brought some instead from the bazaar and used it on the patient. The doctor refused to see her later, although I gave The 2 rupees fees. The disease is dangerous and God alone will help us. The lamp of my life has died out. She passed away at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. The name of the untouchable school teacher is not given, so also the name of the doctor is not mentioned. This was at the request of the untouchable teacher who feared reprisal. The facts are indisputable. No explanation is necessary. The doctor who in spite of being educated, refused to apply the thermometer and treat an ailing woman in a critical condition. As a result of his refusal to treat her, the woman died. He felt no qualms of conscience in setting aside the code of conduct which is binding on his profession. The Hindu would prefer to be inhuman rather than touch and untouchable. There is one another incident more telling than this. On the 6th of March 1938, a meeting of the Bangis was held at the Kasharwadi behind Pulan Mills, Dadar, Bombay, under the chairmanship of Mr. Indulal Yadnik. In this meeting, one Bangi boy narrated his experience in the following terms. I passed the vernacular final examination in 1933. I have studied English up to the 4th standard. I applied to the school committee of the Bombay municipality for employment as a teacher, but I failed as there was no vacancy. Then I applied to the backward classes officer Ahmedabad for the job of a Talati, village patwari, and I succeeded. On 19th February 1936, I was appointed a Talati in the office of the Mamaltadar of the Borsad Taluka in the Kheda district. Although my family originally came from Gujarat, I had never been in Gujarat before. This was my first occasion to go there. Similarly, I did not know that untouchability would be observed in government offices. Beside in my application, the fact of my being a Harijan was mentioned, and so I expected that my colleagues in the office would know beforehand I was who I was. That being so, I was surprised to find the attitude of the clerk of the Mamaltadar office when I presented myself to take charge of the post of the Talati. The Karkun contemptuously asked, "Who are you?" I replied, "Sir, Lama Harijan." "Sure, I am Harijan." He said, "Go away. Stand at a distance. How dare you stand so near me? You are in office. If you were outside, I would have given you 6 kicks." What honesty! To come here for service. Thereafter, he asked me to drop on the ground my certificate and the order of appointment as a Talati. He then picked them up. While I was working in the Mamaltadar office at Borsad, I experienced great difficulty in the matter of getting water for drinking. In the veranda of the office, there were kept cans containing drinking water. There was a waterman in charge of these water cans. His duty was to pour out water to clerk in office. Whenever they needed it in the absence of the waterman, they could themselves take water out of the cans and drink it. That was impossible in my case. I could not touch the cans, for my touch would pollute the water. I had therefore to depend upon the mercy of the waterman. For my use, there was kept a small rusty pot. No one would touch it or wash it except myself. It was in this pot that the waterman would dole out water to me. But I could get water only if the waterman was present. This waterman did not like the idea of supplying me the water. Seeing that I was coming for water, he would manage to slip away, with the result that I had to go to without water, and the days on which I had no water to drink were by no means few. I had the same difficulty regarding my residence. I was a stranger in Borsad. No caste Hindu would rent a house to me. The untouchable of Borsad were not ready to give me lodging for the fear of displeasing the Hindus who did not like my attempt to live as a clerk a station above me. Far greater difficulties were with regard to food. There was no place or person from where I could get my meals. I used to buy bazaars morning and evening, eat them in some solitary place outside the village, and come and sleep at night on the pavement of the verandas of the Maltadar's office. In this way, I passed 4 days. All this became unbearable to me. Then I went to live at Gentral, my ancestral village. It was 6 miles from Borsad. Every day I had to walk 11 miles. This I did for a month and a half. Thereafter, the Maltadar sent me to Talati to learn the work. This Talati was in charge of three villages, Gentral, Khapur, and Shahjpur. Central was his headquarters. I was in Central with this Talati for 2 months. He taught me nothing, and I never once entered the village office. The headman of the village was particularly hostile. Once he had said, "You fellow, your father, your brother are sweepers, so sweep the village office, and you want to sit in the office as our equal? Take care, better give up this job." One day the Talati called me to Sajpur to prepare the population table of the village from Central. I went to Sajpur. I found the headman and the Talati in the village office doing some work. I went stood near the door of the office and wished them good morning, but they took no notice of me. I stood outside for about 15 minutes. I was already tired of life and felt enraged at being thus ignored and insulted. I sat down on a chair that was lying there. Seeing me seated on the chair, the headman and the Talati quietly went away without saying anything to me. A short while after, people began to come, and soon a large crowd gathered round me. This crowd was led by the librarian of the village library. I could not understand why an educated person should have led this mob. I subsequently learned that the chair was his. He started abusing me in the worst terms, addressing the revenue village servant. He said, "Who allowed this dirty dog of a Bhangi to sit on the chair?" The revenue unseated me and took away the chair from me. I sat on the ground. Thereupon the crowd entered the village office and surrounded me. It was a furious crowd, raging with anger, some abusing me, some threatening to cut me to pieces with dharya, a sharp weapon like a sword. I implored them to excuse me and to have mercy upon me. That did not have any effect upon the crowd. I did not know how to save myself, but an idea came to me of writing to the Mawaltadar about the fate that had befallen me and telling him how to dispose of my body in case I was killed by the crowd. Incidentally, it was my hope that if the crowd came to know that I was practically reporting against them to the Maltadar, they might hold their hands. I asked the revenue to give me a piece of paper, which he did. Then, with my fountain pen, I wrote the following on it in a big bold letter so that everybody could read it. To the Maltadar Taluka Boshad. Sure, be pleased to accept the humble salutation of Parmar Kalidas Shivram. This is to humbly inform you that the hand of death is falling upon me today. It would not have been so if I had listened to the words of my parents. Be so good as to inform my parents of my death. The librarian had read what I wrote and at once asked me to tear it off, which I did. They showered upon me innumerable insults. You want us to address you as our Talati. You are a Bhangi and you want to enter the office and sit on the chair. I implored for mercy and promised not to repeat this and also promised to give up the job. I was kept there till 7 in the evening when the crowd left. Till then the Talati and the Mukhya had not come. Thereafter I took 15 days leave and returned to my parents in Bombay. This is the real description.